Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to those of you around the world. Welcome to the daily Trade the Chain crypto update, where we give you everything you need to know for the next 24 hours and hopefully the next few days. Today is Monday, December 18th. We are, of course, staring at we're staring at the Christmas holiday headed towards us in the weekend. We have a very interesting week actually as well. We have PCE on Friday, then markets are closed on Monday, obviously for Christmas, and then markets are closed again the following Monday for New Year's. So we got some shortened trading weeks. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be taking some time off, spending time with the holidays. So I'm not expecting the busiest 14-day span in the market, but we do know crypto is 24/7, and I doubt the markets will be taking too much time off in general. So before I get started today, just want to let everybody know Thursday, we're going to have a kind of a special edition of Trading Rebellion. Alex is going to be on with John Nigerian. We're going to be talking options, TradFi, crypto, everything you need to know kind of heading into that PCE print on Friday. And of course, what we think is going to happen heading into early January with the Bitcoin ETF trade, and of course, crypto tokens, as well as TradFi crypto assets, and as well as options plays for those TradFi crypto assets. So definitely want to join us on Thursday around this time. Should be around 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern for basically your kind of pre-holiday extravaganza, if you will. So we're looking at the GTC dashboard right now. Of course, crypto total market cap is down 2%. Bitcoin's down 1.3, Ethereum's down almost 3%. So Ethereum's still weak. Bitcoin sentiment, low 40s, ETH sentiment, high 30s. So ETH is officially bearish while Bitcoin's still in that neutral level. But, total crypto market as a whole, still kind of in that, neutral to bullish territory, which is definitely good. I know a lot of people are trading altcoins, over Bitcoin and Ethereum. So definitely want to see the altcoins still having some fun out there. Total tweet volume still up to 177,000. And total trading volume, while down from, kind of that 70, 80 billion level that it was at the peak of last week and prior weeks, still at 60 billion. So that is very positive. IOTX, one of the top performers today. Actually, I don't know if we have it on here, but Metis is also up, I believe, 20 to 30% today on the heels of some news around an ecosystem fund. And if you guys remember INJ, Injective, one of the top performers this year, it was running on announcement of an ecosystem fund earlier in the year. So Metis is definitely one that I think you should keep an eye on. In terms of stablecoin exchange flows, very break even. A lot of inflows last night, some withdrawals this morning. It is Monday, so maybe people taking some money off the table heading in the new year, but no, nothing that I'm seeing that is worrying too much. OXT was actually the coin of the week that we put in the TTC newsletter today, so that's up 7%. Sentiment obviously very high as well. So let's move down the line. Bitcoin sentiment facing, about 7 days straight of bearishness. It did have 7 days straight of bullishness prior to this. So very interesting to see, 1 week very bullish, 1 week very bearish. But in the grand scheme of things, you'll notice, at least on the Bitcoin chart, and we'll talk about this, we're still above last week's low. And remember, I ended Friday's show talking about as long as we stayed above last week's low and formed a bottom above that low, things should be positive heading into the end of the year. Obviously, preliminary results do say we are holding that low, but we do need to get above, obviously, the Monday high and, back towards last week's highs as well for some likely follow through. So Ethereum sentiment, facing some more of the doldrums, did have a bit of a pop late last week, but obviously getting sent lower. And we did say, the one thing about sentiment was we didn't want it to see it fall below 40. So we did see it fall below 40 today, but kind of forming a little bit of a double bottom here. So although it did drop below the level that I was concerned about, we did, have a decent technical formation on sentiment. So still keeping hopes high for Ethereum into the end of the year. And as we can see for Bitcoin, barely dripped under 40 for just a second and then popped right back above. So, still, we're still, in the area where we can still springboard out of here or consolidate a little more and start to inch higher. I do still think both of those scenarios are still likely, considering we're holding those those previous weekly lows. So let's look at DXY, which did, took a massive drop after FOMC last week. Did not ride all the way down to that 101 level, but we are sitting at resistance right here. So obviously these previous lows are going to act as resistance. And as you can see, it got cut down here on Friday and has been unable to move above 102.6 as of today. So the bulls, the risk asset bulls want to see this move lower back towards this low. And then the risk asset bears, want to see DXY obviously move up towards this level or this level. And so the breaker for me is kind of 102.6. So if this gets above 102.6, things may get a little bit more hairy for risk assets. And if it breaks below 102.4, things should start to improve, in my opinion, for risk assets. Now, talking about risk assets, even with DXY, inching higher since last Friday, equities are moving higher and now at this 47.50 level that I had eyed out way last week, well before the FOMC day gave us, probably some of the most beautiful set of candles we've had in a while. So equities are officially at the 47.50 number. It had played out the way that we told TTC community, obviously below previous daily close. You would be looking at this set of, lows or, somewhere down here, but that obviously no worries there. So we did bust up higher, and now I'll kind of zoom out a little bit to give you guys a bit better perspective. I mean, if we keep zooming out here, I'm pretty sure we are close to those all-time highs. So basically above 47.50, the next all-time high for equities is, and let me move, I think I might have had this just a little bit off. It is about 48.23. So we are about 75 points off of the all-time high for equities. And that's going to be the next target. I mean, it's just naturally exactly where you would expect the next target to be. So basically, the moral of the story here is very simple. For equities, get above 47.50, got a straight line up to all-time highs. And of course, you break above all-time highs, you got nothing but fresh air all the way above that. So definitely we'll keep an eye out on a break above, I guess 47.49 to be exact, 47.50 to call it a nice round number. But again, get above that level up here. If you get rejected from this level, now the first area that you'd want to hold are these lows. So if we drop that back here and hold right there, that's a good long opportunity with a stop down here. And then hopefully continue to ride that higher. And then worst case scenario, again, if we drop beneath these lows, we'd look for pretty much right around this area. So 46.43 up to 46.56 would be a nice little demand zone right there. I am still bullish equities. I think the only thing that would tear down equities at this point is Jerome Powell coming out and saying that they're not thinking about rate cuts anymore. Or like I said earlier in the session, if PCE comes in way off the mark. And right now, PCE is expected to come down. Core PCE is expected to drop to 3.2 from 3.5. PCE is expected to drop to 2.8%. I don't know why it's not there, but it's 2.8 from 3. So both of those are obviously headed in the right direction. And we talked after FOMC. The whole idea right now is that inflation is coming down. No reason to fear about unemployment. As long as inflation keeps dropping, markets should be very happy. And of course, we have another massive inflation print. PCE is the Fed's preferred inflation index. So as long as that continues to drop, means come in at expectations, the market should react very positively, which is why I am bullish on equities. Usually we've been coming around predicted, and even if it came in at, let's say 2.9, that's still lower than 3. Even if core PCE came in at 3.3, still lower than 3.5. Everything is headed in the right direction as it stands. Could we get random numbers that aren't expected? Yes, but I think that is less likely than getting the numbers that we expect. So looking at Bitcoin, best way to look at these things, in my opinion, is especially on a Monday range. You've heard me talk about that many times. So the Monday range right now, the high is right here where I circled. The low is down here where I circled. Could the high change? Yes, the high does, or we will not know the official high until 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if this goes higher, then we'll have a new Monday high. But this will definitely be the Monday low down here. And then this is the previous week's low, right? So like I said before, we are forming a bottom or forming a low above last week's low. what we really need to do is form a high above last week's high. Well, technically last week's high is up here, but this is as high as we got on Wednesday and Thursday after FOMC. So what I'd like to see next is getting above this level. Whether or not we get cut down to the previous week's high and drop back, to here and form another low, that's fine, because if you're thinking about this, you're looking for higher highs and higher lows. So we're getting our higher lows, right? And we did form a lower high, right? So this is a lower high compared to this high up here. So that is not what we want to see. So what we'd like to see is a higher high, right? And then another higher low. So we move up here, we do something like this, we drop back down, we form a higher low, and then that sets us up to get back towards the highs all the way up here, and then hopefully springboard off of, into the end of December and into early January. So basically the ideal movement in this scenario right now is, regardless of where that Monday high ends up, and obviously a higher Monday high is certainly not a bad thing, but we definitely want to, break these highs, so to speak, and form a higher high, and then that will set us up to form a higher low, and then we can continue to keep good market structure and move past that 45K level or 44.5K level into end of December, early January. So that's what I want to see out of Bitcoin. And sorry, I'm just noticing some of the comments, so apologies if I pause there. So someone asked, great stuff from YCC, how's sentiment on SEI? So since we're going to move into altcoins now, talking about ETH, we just went over the ideal Bitcoin trade. Let's go ahead and look at SEI before we get into Bitcoin. And I'm just going to normalize some of these things, because when I'm done with these, I have like 1,000,001 green lines sitting on the chart, and I want to make sure that it's normalized. So, and of course, some people do listen instead of watch. So I just want to let people know the current weekly low for this week on Bitcoin is 40.5. Last week's low is 40.2. So as long as Bitcoin stays above 40.2 this week, all things look good. In the best case scenario, Bitcoin is back above 43.5 by Wednesday or Thursday. And if that is the case, maybe we take a slight dip into the beginning of the weekend, maybe just before PCE, or maybe we just keep moving higher. But in the best case scenario, Bitcoin stays above 40.5 and makes its way all the way up to 43.5, before the end of the regular week, which means Monday through Friday. Maybe we have a good weekend after that. So SEI on sentiment, and let's make sure I have this, because SEI is still kind of new, so I'm not entirely sure that I'm going to have it. Yeah, so I don't have it. Let me check one thing for you guys really quick, because I've been waiting to add this coin, but it has not been around too long, and of course it has to have the right amounts of sentiment. Alrighty, so I can't guarantee the data is going to be the best, but I may have just got it. Yep, so you're not going to see too much tweet volume. Yeah, so unfortunately, we're not going to be able to really track the sentiment on this, because the unfortunate thing is as you're seeing here, we just don't have enough sentiment data, and that's going to happen with coins. If the thing about sentiment is there needs to be enough data to properly, track said coin. And so unfortunately, it's not the case. I'll definitely do a little bit of, price action analysis for you though. I got SEI right here. So let's probably zoom out a little bit to get better review. So really good balance right here off the 4-hour estimated 200 moving average. Anytime you see an estimated 200 moving average holding on, no matter what time frame it is, usually a good buy, and then set it, stop at the low. So of course, looking at this trade in hindsight, but as you can see, it had basically, a few taps on that level, right? And it held every single time. So if you ever see something like this happen, let's say it taps here and you missed that and it kind of creeps back down. If it ends up at least making contact with the moving average, then you just set your stop at the lowest point after the tap, and just pray, because then you have really tight risk right there. and you know that it's going to be a support level that's going to get defended. And so that's just good example of a trade off the 4-hour estimated 200 moving average. So, and Metis just made a new high as I was speaking. So checking out SEI. Now, if I'm drawing my range, this is going to be probably, I'd say this is probably the range to draw. So you got, deviation here. And actually, let's move this high down here because we got a lot of action up here. So we got deviation down here, deviation up here. It's held this level, and our mid-range is basically going to be right around here, right? So you got your range, right? So you got your high, you got your low, you got your mid-range. So now you can start to really form a good plan here. So it broke above mid-range, right? So if you really wanted to be zealous, maybe just set a stop here at mid-range and try and ride it up here. If you want to be patient, wait for it to pull back to mid-range to then buy a sweep of the mid-range so that your stop at whatever price is low under the mid-range after it gets back up, trade it up here. Or if you really want to be patient, maybe it goes all the way up here. And then if it confirms above, meaning, and as you can see here, there were no candle confirmations above on the 4-hour. There was no there was no follow-up body close above 30 cents. So you would wait for it to break above 30 cents, or you wait for it to reject here and then come back to the mid-range and play it up and then higher. So honestly, with that type of candle off that, I'd be shocked if it doesn't end up tagging 30 cents in my opinion. So if you really wanted kind of a YOLO, not the worst YOLO in the world, because Bitcoin is actually looking pretty good in my opinion. We're seeing some nice spot buys come in. So in my opinion, I think you'll see SEI at 30 cents. But the question is, does it break above 30 immediately, or does it come back down to 26 cents before it moves up? But as long as it's, and just to kind of give you, maybe here's a spot kind of example, if it stays above 26 cents, it should definitely end up moving past 30 cents in my opinion. So if it can hold mid-range in this formation, I have a feeling that it'll definitely move higher, but it's got to hold 26. And oops, I don't know why I got rid of that. We'll probably end up coming back to this one. So there's 26 right there. Okay. So there you go. Let's look at Ethereum. Okay, so Ethereum is not too tricky here from a technical look. Let's normalize this a little bit, get rid of that so we get the full chart. Okay, so from a technical perspective, I've got the weekly, or I've got the Monday high and the Monday low marked out. So the Monday high is right here where this it's 2205. Monday low is 2115. Last week's not the weekly low. Well, I guess technically last week's low was 2143, but last Monday low was 2156. And whether or not you're looking at the weekly low or the Monday low, it swept the weekly low and the Monday low, right, from last week. So Ethereum price. So let me say that again. Ethereum price swept both last week's low and last week's Monday low. In my opinion, that is a technically good trade, especially considering it's holding above last Monday's low and above last week's low. So what you would do is you set here's your trade right here. Oh, we don't want short, we want long. Here's your trade. Your risk at this point, if you would have hit the trade as we typically talk about sweeps, then you'd only be risking 1.85%. In this scenario, you're risking 2.55%. But your goal is to make it all the way back up to the previous Monday high, which would be an 8.4% trade. So you're risking 2.5 to make 8.4 in this scenario. And even if in the worst case scenario, that's what makes it tricky, because you can see this 1 hour estimated 200 moving average have been acting as resistance. So if you traded it up to the 1 hour estimated 200 moving average, you'd be risking 2.55 to make 2.67. But I think for this trade, you'd probably looking at maybe a multi-day or week-long swing above 8.5 or up to 8.5% gain. So in my opinion, this is a pretty decent trade. Maybe you could be patient for another tap kind of down here at 21.56 if you really want to see it. But in my opinion, definitely a pretty solid trade. And I think you'll probably end up seeing something like this throughout the week. Maybe we kind of hit here and do something like that. But in my opinion, not a bad trade in the grand scheme of things. So, and then of course, if you make it below, if you creep back down low, I think it'll probably hold this Monday low. Obviously, last Tuesday, it did kind of pull that sweep right there, which is really annoying. And ETH has been weaker than Bitcoin. But, in the worst case scenario, just to give everybody a update on, how bad can things get if they do get bad. So if we break below the Monday low, which is, again, 21.15, then the next stop would be down here at 2070. And we talked about 2070 is really the last place that I wanted to see a stand for Ethereum. 2030, I think, is the final place where Ethereum should be making a stand. And so if you drop below 2070, you'll probably end up hitting 2030. I'd love to see 2070 hold. I mean, I'd love to see this 21.15 low hold, to be honest with you. But worst case scenario, really want to see 2070 hold. Absolute worst case scenario, absolute worst case, you want to see 2030 hold. If that does not hold, market structure begins to shift. Things get a lot more scary, in my opinion, at least on the ETH chart. So ideally, current Monday low is the low, but in the worst case scenario, 2070, 2030, below 2030, my bias will start to shift. So, and then just finally, last note I'll make is ETH BTC, because obviously that pulled back pretty substantially. Pretty ugly 4-hour candle here. It's still holding, obviously these lows down here. You got this triple tap kicking. And typically this kind of triple tap will lead to, busting back up to at least, the range highs, but unfortunately it's been quite weak. So I probably wouldn't be longing this, but if it does hold up at 0.051 again, probably not too bad for another long, because as you can see, every time it's tapped this level, it's jumped up quite substantially. Never lasts, but it always does jump up for a nice little low risk, high reward. And I say low risk because if it ends up getting down here, your risk is really tight if you're longing at this level, so just something to look out for. So that'll be it for today. Of course, we'll see you, throughout the week. And then remember, Thursday, John Najarian is going to come on with Alex. We're going to talk, options, TradFi, crypto, pretty much everything heading into PCE and the new year. So I am still bullish, basically summarize my feelings in the market right now. As long as equities move higher, I am still bullish all risk assets, including crypto. If equities really start to pull back here at this 47.50 level, which they totally could, considering how close we are to these highs, but with PCE looking as good as it does, and this talk about rate cuts, I think equities are going to continue higher. And if they continue higher, I think crypto won't be a straight line. Obviously, we're going to see some chop, but as long as we keep making higher lows, that should lead to higher highs. So with that being said, good luck, happy trading. See everybody on Monday. On Tuesday.